Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hopefully, y'all have had a great weekend so far, a great Saturday. There are some things to talk about this evening, as there's something in the short term, which is here in the next 48 hours. But talking about Monday morning, there is the potential for some wintry weather for areas of maybe the Carolinas, really especially talking about North Carolina, potentially Virginia, and areas of the mid-Atlantic along the coastal sections of New England. So we're going to break that down because this is a tricky system that could really start to show up in your local forecast maybe as early as tomorrow morning, and it could make for a tricky commute Monday morning to start off our work week. So not a lot of people are talking about this, so I'm gonna show you guys what I'm seeing, and I don't think it's going to be a big event, but like I said, this could sneak up on some people in North Carolina and areas like that. So if you guys have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button for me, like the video if you like it. I'm also going to talk about the latest and greatest information on what some of the long range, like the European and the GFS, is showing, as they are starting to show even more hints at a stormy pattern as we're getting closer to the Valentine's Day period, or around the mid-month period. So we're definitely going to take a look at that for you guys. So definitely hit up my social media links over here. It's a great way to stay up to date with the latest information. I tell you what, today, guys, I've really just mellowed out. It's been a nice, relaxing day. I took a nap on the couch. First time I've been able to do that in over a month. So it's been a nice break. It's quieter weather, but we're going to try to latch on to the next thing that's going to be active in the weather world. So thank y'all for tuning in tonight. Now, like I said, hope y'all are having a fantastic weekend. So if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over them, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So we're going to start off by talking about the threat Monday morning. Like I said, it's going to be a sneaky threat. So what's going on is, we'll back this up. I meant to have this started a little earlier, but this is for about Sunday evening around the 7 p.m. time frame. You have some moisture starting to ride northward. It'll start off in southern areas of Georgia, just in the way of some showers, ending off our weekend tomorrow evening in the Carolinas and Georgia. These showers overnight will start to get in some cooler air, not very cold air, but it's cold enough that if this moisture can get into the Piedmont of North Carolina, and then areas of the triad of North Carolina and the foothills of North Carolina, and heck, even into Virginia, that it could fall in the form of, I really would think it would be freezing rain and some sleet. The latest long-range HRRR model is quite aggressive with this, and this is valid right here for 8 a.m. Monday. Shows you a little bit of sleet. Heck, it even shows some snow. I guess it shows the precipitation so heavy that it crashes the column right here, and it becomes all snow. That would be a pretty intense burst of snow for areas north of Charlotte, around Greensboro. I'm just not bought into that yet. I think if anything, there'll be some freezing rain in this area, but I don't know about snow. But I will be very interested to see how the models get a hold of this overnight, if they trend away from it, if they trend more towards it. But this is for Monday morning, which show a burst of just some kind of frozen precipitation for areas of North Carolina, these areas into here. This gets into areas of Virginia, and gets quite robust here as we're getting into central Virginia. Getting into the early afternoon hours, a period of wet snow breaking out into Virginia. So it only goes out to 48 hours and it stops. But even in folks in South Carolina, you're going to be waking up to a very cold and raw morning with this developing low pressure. It's a very tricky system right here. Trying to get the handle on what's going to happen with this is a big question mark. We go a little further up the eastern seaboard to you folks in the northeast as we're getting into Monday afternoon. This is when the HRRR model stops and only goes out 48 hours. But if this was to keep running, you would have to wonder, could some areas get a burst of snow? You got a little bit of snow showing up in New Jersey. You guys just saw some ice in this region a couple days ago. Well, it ended yesterday. But we look at the latest RGEM model. And this model has done pretty well as of late. And that's why I'm showing it. But it still does have a cold bias to it. But check out what this does. So we're getting into as early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m., freezing rain breaking out. In fact, let's go on and get a little bit closer to here. Freezing rain breaking out into areas of the northwest upstate of South Carolina, getting into the foothills, even gets into the mountains. And this would show it as all freezing rain, and pretty substantial area of freezing rain breaking out 6, 7 o'clock in the morning for Monday morning. You know, that if something like this model was to play out, this would actually be an impactful small-scale event that would move through here. It would show a period of freezing rain for Charlotte, for example, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours. I just don't think that's going to happen. But if that was to occur, that would cause some pretty significant icing. But it has this showing up, but I'm not latching on to the idea of it being this aggressive. I'm not yet. We would start to have to get all the models on board. But I tell you what, a lot of models are now showing at least something. But if we take a look at a sounding out of Charlotte for this, you're wondering why it's freezing rain. Well, I forgot we can't look at a sounding in on this model, but let's back it up to here. We look at a sounding around Charlotte and how cold the actual temperature is. On the HRRR model, it's 33 degrees, and there's actually not a warm nose that goes above 32 degrees aloft, several thousand feet up in the air. So this would be falling as sleet at 33 degrees. What I'm interested is the column here. There's some dry air. So if your dew points are in the upper 20s and your temperatures are in like the low 30s, a wet bulb is going to be met to the point where, it's going whatever's falling will probably fall at around 30, 31 degrees. So whether that's freezing rain, whether that's sleet, it would be freezing on contact for at least a couple hours. So we have to watch any moisture that gets into this area tomorrow morning. You keep this going up the eastern seaboard. This would bring a little period of snow for areas of Virginia into Maryland. We go a little bit further up the eastern seaboard with this model, and this actually turned into a pretty nice snowstorm, almost you could say, for areas of the interior northeast like Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine. It's very robust compared to other models. In fact, I'm going to be very interested to see if it trends away from this, because this is quite aggressive. Look at the Canadian model, which has been decently reliable really over the last several months of any weather event, but it still has a cold bias, but kind of shows the same scenario as the RGEM model, and has freezing rain breaking out over the Piedmont of North Carolina, areas of the upstate of South Carolina, and then looks very, very similar to the last model I just showed you, which is the RGEM model. So I really think there's going to be at least a little freezing rain in North Carolina, especially. In fact, we look at the blend of models right here so far. I like this. This pretty much symbolizes a glaze of ice from Charlotte to maybe to Raleigh. And I think you could extend this a little bit northwest. So I would not be surprised at all if they issue winter weather advisories for certain areas of North Carolina, unless it completely trends away for tomorrow evening for Monday morning for these areas, and just be a little tricky traveling. We'll have to watch this. I'll be interested. I don't think it's going to trend any more amplified, but I do think we need to watch it. So let's take a look at what's going on, what the latest models are showing for our long range outlook, because very interesting things have showed up here. So we're getting into next week. You watch that low pressure, that moves on out. And the GFS, by the way, really isn't showing any way of any wintry precipitation for the event I was just talking about. But anyways, we're getting past that. It's going to be a quiet week. There's not going to be a whole lot to talk about. What basically I will be doing next week is using next week to look ahead to the next week, because we're trying to figure out when's the next event going to be. Is there going to be one? Well, it's the weather. There's always a next event. It's just when. So we're getting into next weekend. You got a pretty robust clipper moving through the Great Lakes region. And then the cold air drops down, and we're getting pretty far out at this point. At this point, we're over a week out. But this little booger keeps showing up. It's been showing up on and off for the last, I would say, 3 or 4 days at this range. This drops down as we get into next Sunday, delivers snow for areas as far south as Memphis, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, gets into the southern Appalachian Mountains, and the low pressure begins to cut, which this pattern kind of favors, and then transfers to the coast and starts to strengthen and starts to dump snow. This event looks extremely like an event. It was mid-January 2018, and this gave areas like North Carolina a lot of snow. This looks just like that event. Started out as almost like an antifront kind of deal, where you had a cold chasing moisture kind of situation, and ended up turning into a strengthening low as it strengthened off the coast of North Carolina, the mid-Atlantic. But this goes up and turns into a pretty impactful snowstorm for areas along the I-95 corridor and moves on out. So that's a time frame to watch. It really is. I know that's 8 to 10 days out, but there's a pretty at least on the operational runs, there's a pretty strong storm signal for that time frame. Now, let's look at the European, because the European is honking its horn on that too. I want to mention on the European, it's showing wintry precipitation Monday morning for North Carolina also, really just in the form of snow. It's very odd how all the models differ on what's going to fall Monday morning. It really is. But we'll have to see what happens here. It also pops off enough moisture here in southern New England and just New England in general into Maine to actually promote a decent snowfall for areas of Maine. But this moves on through, and then we get into next week, and like I said, it becomes quiet. You check out this clipper that moves through, throws some snow showers for areas of the Northeast, and here comes that other one, and then here comes that piece of energy Sunday morning, and it looks just like the GFS. It actually has snow a good bit further south, all the way into Louisiana, brings snow into Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then the low pressure begins to really develop here and it's dumping heavy snow all the way to Atlanta through the southern Appalachian Mountains, through the Ohio Valley. Low pressure begins to strengthen. It begins to cut through the Carolinas, backside snow showing up as far south as Savannah, Georgia. That's not going to happen, folks. I mean, y'all can make me eat crow if it does, but I don't see this is a weird setup in general. But this is a pattern that favors systems to cut because we don't have any blocking around Greenland. We don't have a negative NAO, which helps a storm track that favors more so right off the coast. But the European just shows an all-out snowstorm, major snowstorm for the interior mid-Atlantic, the interior Northeast, and even backside snow, a nice backside snow event for areas of South Carolina, Carolinas, Virginia, and just turns into an all-out monster of a storm as it moves on out. So the GFS operational and the European operational are showing a substantial winter storm around the same time frame, but it's like, it's like 8 to 9 days out. It's pretty far out. But you look at the upper energy with this and what this looks like, and you can see it here. When you look at the European, for example, two pieces of energy start to phase together, and they completely phase right here as we're getting into about 9 days out. So this would be early Monday morning, next Monday morning. If this was to happen, they completely phase over the southern Appalachian Mountains. If you're wanting a nice, significant winter event for areas of just basically the Southeast in general, you want this to phase and dig a lot further south. But just speaking in general, if something like the European was going to happen, this phases. When it begins to phase, it potentially starts to go negatively tilted. Therefore, you have a pretty potent storm system that begins to crank up off the I-95 corridor and impact areas of the Northeast. So we'll have to watch to see what happens, guys. I'm going to be interested to see if the models continue to latch on to the storm over the next 2 to 3 days, really, because if we could get into tomorrow and they're still latching onto it, but if they turn around and drop it Monday, then there's still a lot of inconsistency, and there still is going to be. So we'll continue to see what's going to happen. That's all I got, guys. Having an update in the morning, what's going on, especially for that early morning threat Monday morning, because that could catch some people off guard. I really think it could. But y'all have a great night, and God bless all y'all.